So I figured it'd be a good place to start with actually just describing to people who don't know what's going on, because it is very complicated. Now we just have a bunch of videos coming out, which don't feature Mark Z, the commissioner, because he was on vacation when they happened, but he did drop into the Dive podcast to defend Best of Ones, which I thought was hilarious.
Monty, I just want to ask a question. Am I the only one who's actually worked in esports? Like, how is Riot doing this thing where someone rocks up? Hey, I know I was in charge of all esports, but I've been on a sabbatical for the last year. Anyway, I'm nipping off. Then someone's like, I know I'm the commissioner, but I don't work Friday. It's like, it's esports, you moron. It's 24 hours a day at all times. When something happens, you just turn on your camera and talk. Like, there's no like, it's my lunch break. Like, you're not the DMV, you moron. It's the biggest jobs in the game.
I was gonna say, like, isn't he the fucking commissioner? Like,
yes. And like, by the way, Richard, I think all of us can identify with this. There have been 0 vacations over the last 10 years where I don't have a condenser microphone with me. Fucking 0.
Yeah. It's insane. Like, I just can't understand how. You think about the optics of presenting this information after you bigged up how, like, the way Riot championed his appointment was, finally, one of you, the fans, is in and running the league, and all the changes are going to be so amazing. It's all going to go through this guy that we know you like, and we've given him a bogus title and no authority whatsoever, and barely any input. All we're doing is we're just doing what we've always done at Riot, which is whatever Reddit want, you will get. We will pander to the fucking Reddit morons and break our own product to do that. And this is the face of that terrible business decision. And then it's like, by the way, we're announcing the most major changes to the structure of the league while the commissioner is on holiday. Like, get fucked. I couldn't even be happier for him, because he's just such a fucking loser, bro. Like, he's just so, like, no, I mean, come on, let's also be real. He's just so, like, like fucking Grimer Wormtongue whispering in Mark Merrill's ear. Yes, Reddit says this. Yes. It's just like, and you're calling yourself a commissioner. It's a fucking joke. The whole thing's a joke, a sick joke. So there you go. That's my rant over. Used the last of my energy. I'm just feeling it. I'm just feeling it from the election night, guys.
What they did,
great
obviously,
day for all us patriots.
They obviously typoed it. He's not the commissioner. He's a commissar. His job is to take orders from above and just dispense justice to the plebeians out there. So there you go.
That's absolutely, it's absolutely true. So it's just perfect that you would make these changes without while he's away. Also, kind of like, did you not plan it? Sorry, Zap.
No worries. I just, it's pretty clear to see when something is an upgrade or downgrade when Riot says it, because when it's an upgrade, when they have something that actually they find exciting, right? It's the Nintendo Direct, right? You have someone that's very important, face of something in Riot. You have the office in the background. They talk directly to the audience, like, hey guys, welcome. Yep. I'm this and that, and I'm like taking the lead on this, right? We had a B-roll for LCS. It should be right. It should be a major announcement, right? If you started from the ground up and there was nothing before, and you announced that the whole continent of America got a league for League of Legends, you would have, right, a triumphant person.
Oh, you're right. I've just realized, not only are you right, but tying that to Richard's point, that's even more insane. Bro, you're only once ever going to dissolve the fucking league of the entire continent and then form a new one between all. And it's like, you couldn't just plan that out 2 weeks in advance. Like, oh shit, is that on Thursday? Oh, but we're on Thursday. What are you talking about? It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Make time for it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's also right, that they didn't really do any any prep for questions about it either. Because the thing about it was that their plan was literally because they recorded the Dive, which is their own, propaganda podcast, immediately after the World Finals. So they forced the casters, including Kobe, whose voice was entirely shot, after the World Finals, the 5-game finals, to go back to the hotel room. And Mark Z was at the finals in London, and they were doing this.
It did it the same day as finals.
The same day. The same day they went back. They went back to their hotel.
It was a full best of 5 as well.
It's the best of 5. Yeah.
Anyway, get back to that hotel room and fucking glaze faker for another 2 hours. You what? That's cruel unusual punishment, mate. That's mental. I agree, though. I know what you mean, Zabatine. Here's what would have happened if this had been something they knew would go down well and be played. It'd be pick anyone. They're all just generic humans at this point. They're puppets for fucking demonic, archonic entities. But they'd just be there and they'd go, "Hey guys, we know you're really concerned about what the future is of the Riot the ecosystem, and we're really excited here to let you know about some of the exciting changes we've got coming for next year. And you're just like, you're already tuning out, but you're right. We didn't even get the reach round. We didn't even get that, bro. We did. They didn't even have the content to do that. They just sort of spat in our face as we laid in the gutter, and then put out an indecipherable fucking thing about the format that like you need like an actual Rosetta Stone to decode. Like, please just tell me, what is it? Is this a league? Is it what's complete? And then in the Northern Division, I can't. Mate, as soon as they start, Monty, with like, and in the Northern Division, there'll be 5 teams plus 1 guest up. You may as well just start by going, a train leaves Boston at 45. Like, I'm out already. I don't know. I failed maths. There you go. I failed it. Can I go and get the job at the DMV already? Is that available? Can I get that job? Oh, sorry, Mark C's got it. My bad. Fuck me.
So I do want to start with I do want to start with talking about what the League of Legends Championship of the Americas is.
We probably should actually talk about the league, not just roast Mark C for like 25 minutes.
I don't know. I thought that's what the premise of the show was. I was trying to figure out what Zab's beef with him was.
Okay. I know. Yeah.
So the League of Legends Championship of the Americas, also known as LTA, and you might be confused, asking yourself things like, why is the acronym LTA when does the T stand for the? And by the way, the justification that was given for this on the dive was hilarious, because it was, you guys will recognize this instantly, because the classic thing that Riot always does is they make a decision and then they're like, but we couldn't make any other decision because that would be impossible, and they like gaslight you that you couldn't fix the core problem, that this problem was immutable, and so they had to select this. So get this. The idea is that basically, because they had to apply for copyright in a variety of different countries in North and South America, and apparently LCA was just taken in some of these, so they had to default to LTA. Now, the obvious question is, well, why don't you just change the name of the fucking league from League of Legends Championship of the Americas to, I don't know, anything else?
I'm missing something. Look, I understand, Monty. I'm about to answer my own question. It's because NFL, NBA, like, why does it have to be a 3-letter acronym? Did I miss a memo?
Because they call those tri-codes, and they're very important. But even if you needed a 3-letter acronym, you could do America's Championship of League of Legends, ACL. Although that's kind of, but I mean, apparently they like the sound of LTA.
The jokes write themselves about that one. We've
exactly.
The ACL, etc.
I mean, probably a bad example, but the point is like, you could probably just reverse engineer it with something that you actually liked. But again, they're like, well, we had to, they make it sound like it was some foregone conclusion that we had to have an acronym based off of League of Legends Championship of the Americas instead of just having a different name or branding.
Why is it on the thing at the top of this article? If you go on to LOL Esports when announcing this, it starts, right? This is how insane the Riot fan base is now. You start an official announcement of all the news. The historic change to your league, you start with a TLDR. You start at the top with that, like, look, you're all Zoomers, you probably can't even read. You're not going to read this shit. So, and then the second bullet point on the TLDR starts the article. The second bullet point is like someone's just trying to reach the word count for an article. It just goes, new look, new name, new look. It's like, what does that even mean? That's just filler. Like, why is the second line? Fill it in this article in my TLDR that you're even putting, so I don't have to read it. It's just like, read these 5 sentences and fuck off. You don't read any, but what are you talking about? It's mad. I love it. That's the expectation level we're already starting at, boys.
I don't even get that. Haven't we established now that, like, the average League of Legends fan is like some fucking 40-year-old miserable trucker or something? No,
me.
Then they're not Zoomers.
Me too.
Yes, the average Richard, the average League of Legends fan is a miserable 40-year-old like me at this point in time.
Well, come on, you're not a fan anymore, right? Like, I mean, let's put our cards
I like
on
how
the
you're
table.
like, but you are miserable. You are miserable.
Yeah, well, for sure. But then, dude, you record podcasts with me and Duncan. How could you not be? Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, listen, this is the classic Riot framing. They always do whenever there's a decision or a rebrand. This is happening. This was always going to happen. This is the only way it can happen. In fact, this is the best way. It's all our own idea. And if anyone else thinks any different, you're just not as smart and clever as us. And they do that every time with every decision they make, even if it's something the community came up with first. Like, by the way, some of these changes I saw suggested years ago.
Of course.
When there was the first panic about the LCS decline. But this is just a classic, like, Riot, like, new name, new look. We're reinventing
by the way,
wheel again. We're
the most
geniuses.
absurd part of this announcement is that they have spent years, like the entire existence of their esports, saying, well, we need to do the franchising because we're going to make durable brands. And this is why we need to do this, because it's going to stand the test of time. And LCS will be here forever. It's the next NBA. And now it's just like, they just delete it. They just absolutely delete it. They sold these brands, they sold the teams on franchising in the LCS and CB LoL, and now neither of those things exist anymore. And you're expecting a fan base who, by the way, is 40 years old and miserable, you know what I mean, to like make the change. And I feel like, so I do think that the competition between North and South America is overall a very good idea, and we'll discuss this later, but it tracks with Riot's movement towards international competition, which we'll all laugh at because who knew that international competition in esports would actually be more popular. So they're just 10 years late to the actual realization that they should have had in day one. But it is, I think, on the whole, a good idea. But you have to be really concerned that all of those people who followed CB LoL and LCS are just going to be out at this point in time, because are people really at this point in their lives, many of whom don't even play League of Legends anymore, they just stick around for to watch the esport, are they going to be on board with learning this new system? Are they going to give a fuck now that, you know, realistically there's only 5 permanent LCS partners? Because we'll talk about what happens to 100 Thieves here as well, which is Riot getting insanely desperate to keep them around at basically any cost when they want it out, just like we saw from NRG and Immortals. So that's the thing that confuses me most, is that you assume that you're just going to take your fans for the ride with this new brand, which is like not a guarantee. And by killing the name and the history, this is a break point where people might just say, you know, I'm kind of done with this at this point in time.
Yeah. I mean, I watched Worlds. It really stood out to me. You know, I haven't engaged with competitive league in quite a while because it's just so passe. I'm working Dota events now. It's just like Dota, like it used to be back in the day. People used to say, "Oh, Dota's like, you know, boring and slow paced," and it's like League is fucking ass to watch now. It's like lost all of its magic and all of its allure. You don't, and it looks terrible. Like it's aged really badly, you know. And I was sat there watching it going, it's no wonder people don't gravitate towards this anymore. Like, I feel like if you were to poll 70% of the fan base, maybe even 70% of the professional scene would say, you know, like it's sunken cost fallacy at this point. I'm not really having a good time. Right.
Oh, by the way, one of Monty's taken a long time ago is they should have done the engine overhaul like 5 years ago.
Yeah,
of course.
That's great. That's why, by the way, this ties back into what we're talking about. Notice how every time they announce something now, they have to also gaslight you that like they're planning for League to be here in like 20 years, which is like, all right, mate. Well, I mean, this doesn't really seem plausible, but I guess like it's just some cargo cult shit now, isn't it? So if we build it, will they come?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've definitely left it too late and missed a significant window because, you know, we've definitely entered, like, broadly across the industry, we've definitely entered into a new phase of games, you know, like as in what can be an esport, how people think about an esport. I mean, you know, the fact that the League of Legends ripoff on mobile is way bigger than League of Legends is hilarious.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
well, that's because Riot refused. When Tencent told Riot to build the mobile version, they said no, and then it got huge, and then they're like, "Oh shit, we better make Wild Rift now."
Turning down millions of dollars for everyone else. Classic. By the way,
actually, billions of dollars. They turned down billions of dollars.
A bit, boys. I do realize on this episode, Zabateen's being very polite. He's just never going to talk unless someone says, "Zabateen, what do you think about this?" Or try as much as you can to force him to talk on this episode.
I'm used to listen to it, right? It's like I'm a watcher of the Four Horsemen. So right now I'm watching an episode, but I kind of tend to forget that I'm in here. I was like, I mean, I think that you know,
it's VR, you're really here, bro. I know.
I feel like what Richard says is it's always very hard. I feel like there's been a very huge lack of risk-taking on. I think there's been a lot of complacency. I don't know how you say it. Like with League of Legends becoming kind of a cash cow. I think like, you know, the project cycle. It's like I think League of Legends is pretty much like what WoW was for Blizzard when I started League of Legends 2009. Everybody was saying, you know, it was still very big, but they did like what they were way more like focused on core player retention than like player acquisition or trying to make the game more exciting. So I think that when you kill like risk taking, obviously your competitors are gonna start to rise. I think although I was never a fan of Dota myself, I always felt like the game was way too complex. It's pretty clear that the people behind Dota, they because they have way more like margin of error within the game and their audience, right? Dota players not gonna go anywhere, right? They've been taking way more risk over the course of the years, and know like this is the MOBA that like League wish to be in a lot of like its design. I don't think like they can acquire players, because I think like, as you say, Richard, the model of like how do people consume game, I think like semi-service games, right? You buy the game, you have a server, you can play with your friends, like the the Pal World, all these type of new games that kind of come up, Helldivers, like semi-service, probably like the new trends. So I don't really see like even esports, like new esports game haven't been on the rise. So I think League can live very long because there is really no competition, and it's like, as you say, it's like starting a new airline, right? You need to buy so many planes to start the business that it's not really worth, I think, for game designers right now to try to aim for esports. So I see League living, but it is very sad to see that like not only the product is aging, but I feel like the core and the very first esports product they came with, which is the LCS, is now rebranded, and it's still for me it's kind of I wouldn't say a complete failure, but it has never been up to the promises that we had, I think 15 years ago when they started, like, or 12 years ago. So many media deals fell through, so many big sponsorship fell through. Nobody was able to really monetize the audience. The audience ran away eventually. The audience is there, but it's on co-streamers. So I think that they never made the project converge towards something that would be better to watch. And the game itself aged pretty much. So now they're in a position where they can't really create new audience through the game anymore. And they have to kind of retain. And I think consolidation is a good way when you have a cash cow.
Yep.
You can consolidate all your costs into like bigger regions and stuff like this to kind of cut the major cost of spending for esports. But I don't really see all these signals as positive for the future of League of Legends. I think it's going to be a huge maintenance phase now.
All you have to say about the consolidation of this league is that if it was going well, guys, they wouldn't do this. Obviously. We know LCS has dropped to like 33%, 25% of its peak viewership. And even though they showed and this is true, year over year from last summer to this summer, growth in terms of viewership, that factor was, well, in terms of average concurrent, not in terms of total, because they played fewer hours. Anyway, we're not going to get into that here, but they did show, in my opinion, growth. A lot of that was because they introduced complete co-streaming, which they didn't have before, and they've kind of run out of levers to pull. You know what I mean?
All those other things, Monty, it changed the days and stuff. Because, by the way, don't worry, Riot are that bad that they absolutely will do stuff like 1 year, fuck up the whole schedule, then not mention that the schedule was changed. And the next year be like, congrats, just like the fucking Ministry of Truth, double plus good, we've got the better viewership this year.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, the same way as if I chop off one of my legs and then I put a prosthetic on, I have a second leg the next year. But what happened the first year? Never mind, it's gone up. Because that was
exactly.
They changed the days.
We're comparing it to the change to the weekdays, obviously, which it is very disingenuous framing by Riot, to be sure. But it did, and also, we're also talking about we're also talking about the fact that they basically didn't allow complete co-streaming previously, and now they allow people to co-stream everything. They were bringing in
a set number of slots before, right? Like a limited number, right?
Yeah. So, or like the way they would do co-streaming is they would only allow people to co-stream super weeks and playoffs, but not every week, which obviously helped viewership as well. Sure. So there were a lot of factors, I think, that were coming in. And I think at this point in time, Riot has basically just run out of tricks to pull because they can't just there aren't any more big co-streamers who are going to co-stream this to pump the numbers anymore.
By the way, has no one ever asked the question, why is there not just a guy at Riot, Monty, who's basically like you? And then when someone goes, right, in this new system, we're going to change it to these days, but we're only going to allow co-streamers to do these days. And then someone just goes, pause. Why not just let them do it all? And he goes, oh, yeah, you're right. Actually, that would be better. Like, why do they always that? Why do they essentially hold back their power? Why is everything Riot does, Monty, like a shit Dragon Ball Z fight where you have to start with the weakest member fighting, then losing, then you go to a slightly better person taking a crack at it, then they almost win, but they don't because then the smoke goes away and then Frieza's still alive or whatever. And then eventually, even when fucking Goku comes, he doesn't just go straight to the best ability. He starts off, but fucking hell, like, but why not just do all this from day one and be really successful? Like, what? Why do you go? But how about if I half fuck it up, then next year it looks like I'm doing twice as good a job? Like, I don't get what this industry is for. Like, what starting point is this? Just do it good from the beginning. What are we doing?
Well, because they didn't have, I mean, we've talked about that. It's because in the early days of League of Legends, they hired a bunch of people who knew fucking nothing about esports, including Brandon Beck's brother, who became the VP of esports, despite the fact that he was like a junior investment banker at Goldman Sachs and had no sports or esports experience. And then underneath him, because if you put competent people underneath him, they wouldn't actually challenge his opinions or say, hey, we should do things differently. So he got cronies, and his little cronies are now still the people who are in charge of LoL esports.
Yeah.
So, they rejected the expertise of the industry for many, many years. And, you could say, well, League of Legends is still the biggest esport in the world. Many of us would argue it was in spite of Riot, not because of it. Like, I think that League of Legends esports could have been much, much better run and much more popular had they actually done it correctly instead of having people who are massively incompetent in charge of the thing.
I mean, the last smart decisions they all made was right at the start of their inception. Like the best decisions they made were, first of all, through their understanding of business relations, studying, being able to have connections to Tencent and get them to fund a Western adoption of the freemium model that was hugely popular in Asia for years. They like to make out that they invented it. Obviously, that was how the Asian markets consumed video games. The game was free, and they just
that was great. That was a great decision.
Yeah, and that was a great decision right there. The next thing they did is brought in that nutcase Jeffrey Light Lin to basically be the mechanism through which they got free press. Because he was out there going, and look, we want the video game to not just be an experience for players, but to actually heal the world. And, he's singing fucking Michael Jackson, make the world a better place.
And like Michael Jackson, he may have had some other stuff on that he himself was not making the world a better place.
We'll workshop that one, eh? We'll workshop that one, Monty. I don't stand by Monty's outrageous insinuations. But, look.
How dare you compare the incredible talented Michael Jackson to fucking Light from Riot? Listen,
also true.
There you go.
So I mean, like, what the Western media did was, like, they never talked about, like, the freemium model and how everybody just adopted that. That was like a game changer for the market. What the press wanted to talk about, particularly because the game comes out in 2009, is popularized through 2010 to 2014. All the games media wanted to talk about at that moment in time was how everyone who installed a video game is a fucking racist, misogynist piece of shit. That was what drove clicks. That was the hate click, the hate viewer that I was talking about. That's how they made their money. I mean, if you go to 2008 and 2009 and you look at what the coverage was like for video games at that moment in time, it was just very by the numbers. It was like very dour. It wasn't really all about, like, the social aspect of gaming and with the political aspect of art and stuff like this. That all came later, and by having a mechanism in a game that ostensibly is meant to correct behavior and identify the naughty gamers and punish them for it, all the games journalists loved that. Of course they did. And then, like, go and read some of, like, the things that they did back then, like Jeffrey's visiting schools, talking to teachers about how they could adopt his, like, behavioral models for the classroom. Christ. It was, like, fucking insane. I don't think people realize how bad it was. But obviously, everybody
insert Bart Simpson write on a chalkboard. I will not write GG Easy at the end of the game. I will not write
GG Easy is hate speech. GG is hate speech. So I mean, journalists presented the game as being somewhere everybody could go, no matter what social strata you were from, and it was going to be the safe space of the gaming world, and you combine those. That was a powerful message back then, and you combine it with the freemium model, and those are the things that propelled it to popularity.
The irony being, it's probably the game that creates the most toxic users in the history of esports, and everything's just a steel cage deathmatch.
There are two video games.
Team, the opponent, and the game, and yourself while playing the game. Like it doesn't in any way be a safe space.
There are 3 video games. I'll correct myself. There are 3 video games that have made me resort to violence against inanimate objects.
Okay.
Football Manager, when that fucking goalkeeper you've never heard of pulls off a perfect 10. Right?
In a randomization shot.
In a cup final, and you lose 1-0 with your fucking super team. You've got the Galacticos. You're playing Grimsby in the FA Cup final. You lose 1-0. That's a hole in a wall right there. That's a hole in a wall. Number 2, it is Madden. When the fucking scripting in that game, and it's like, you've just thrown it into triple coverage with 1 second left, get fucked, and his hands glitch through your
the interceptions are insane, I know.
Like that, right? Just to catch a last-minute touchdown. Smash the keyboard off that. And then League of Legends. And by the way, it's not the game that's making me want to fucking destroy everything. It's me rapidly losing my faith in humanity. Because to play a lot of these games, right, you can be mechanically shit. That's fine. I'm mechanically shit at these games. But it's a game about making decisions. How can you make the wrong one all game over and over again? You shouldn't be allowed to fucking be in my orbit. So yes, the League is a game that encourages toxicity.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.